We're so excited to be able to share with you the latest here on Project Cortex. My name is Naomi Moneypenny. I lead product development for Project Cortex, and I'm joined with my co-presenter, Chris.
Thanks, Naomi. My name is Chris McNulty. I'm Director of Product Marketing for Microsoft 365, and it's been a great privilege over the past number of years as Naomi and team have been working on Project Cortex to get ready to introduce it to the world here at Microsoft Ignite this week. We have a lot to go through today, but we thought we'd begin by talking about how we got here, how the world has changed since we originally launched Project Cortex, introduce you to our new product offering, our first product coming from Project Cortex, and then we're going to walk you through its capabilities and demo and explain to you how you can start adding our first Project Cortex product to your environments real soon. Over the past 3 years, as we've been building Project Cortex, we've wanted to make sure that what we're building will exceed the expectations of all of you for what you can do with knowledge and content in Microsoft 365. And certainly, a global pandemic having changed the way that work gets done made it really important for us to check back with our customers. And throughout the many customers in our preview program, we've really helped to understand what does it mean to be introducing a new product now. Microsoft 365 has been committed to helping support remote work, restarts of operations, and digital transformation throughout this crisis. This has really shaped what we see as our mission statement for Project Cortex. Recognizing the pace of change around the world, being able to tap into knowledge and insights helps individuals take the next best action and helps organizations establish resilience. We've also been asked, why is Microsoft introducing a new product now? I think it's important to think that Microsoft has an opportunity as well as a responsibility to do more with Microsoft 365. We know today that Microsoft 365 applications power an awful lot of the world's creative endeavors. Work gets done inside tools like Microsoft Teams or Outlook or the Office suite. And across those experiences, we all generate a tremendous volume of content, which is stored in the Microsoft Cloud. And what brings that content together is the Microsoft Graph. The Microsoft Graph, simply put, is a common set of interfaces that allow applications and developers to contribute or receive information from the graph. And there's a lot in there: documents, meetings, communications, chats, and more. The graph, though, is more than just a way of accessing information in the cloud. It introduces a layer of artificial intelligence that is continuously mapping the interrelationship between people and meetings and content in order to make intelligent suggestions about how you can learn more through the course of your work and what are the best ways to get that work done. So around Microsoft 365, one of the ways that we're empowering digital transformation is by helping you stay connected to knowledge, experts, and insights from around your organization and beyond, helping discover knowledge in the course of your work, connecting to communities to find experts and answers, learning more about the best practices in your organization, and understanding the best ways to manage the content, which provides the foundation for all of these endeavors. As we get ready to introduce you to our first product from Project Cortex, we'd like to acknowledge the many customers who have helped us on this journey. Working through the private preview, they've come to weekly meetings, deep reviews, design feedback to help shape the product that hopefully we'll all be sharing in very soon. One of the things that we've heard from these customers is a set of common problems. We've heard time and time again about the challenges of information disintegration as it spreads into multiple locations, the challenges with human-intensive content processing, struggles with having a unified way to organize content around the organization, and the ever-present need to make sure that risk is managed through compliance and records management. Microsoft 365 is helping us solve these challenges. Using Project Cortex, we have new capabilities for content understanding, being able to use AI to reach into our documents to begin to process them, and also to be able to imbue them with superpowers through our compliance engine to establish good governance practices. And there are some real benefits to deploying content services around your organization. Based on research we've done with our partners at Forrester, we can see real gains in the 7 to 9 figure range for a typical organization that adopts content management throughout Microsoft 365. All right, you've probably heard me talk about the market and the benefits of this product for a while. I think it's time for me to bring Naomi back in to introduce, for the first time ever, our first product from Project Cortex. Naomi?
Thank you so much, Chris. So yes, we are tremendously excited to introduce to you today Microsoft SharePoint Syntex for the very first time. It's really about bringing content services to work the way that you do. Now you might be asking, what's inside of Microsoft SharePoint Syntex? And so let's go through some of the functionality and we'll give you a quick demo in a little bit too. The first thing is really to understand where that content is coming from and how you as an end user get to benefit here. So for example, if I was in contracts processing, one of the areas where I would be able to build a no-code model all by myself as a subject matter expert, I could go in and actually classify and help to extract the information that's important to me. So the set of functionality that we're bringing to you is really about understanding how you see the document, how you need to get the information from it, and then building a model that actually helps you to process that most effectively. Now, importantly, this is connected to the rest of Microsoft 365. And so all of the great functionality that we have inside of SharePoint already, for example, with Power Automate, helping you seamlessly to integrate with workflows, and then really being able to put all of that together in the right way for your specific business process. We have two different ways of being able to understand the content inside of your organization. One of those is really understanding what's inside of the document, as you saw Chris reference earlier, but we can also think about different areas and types of content. So for example, forms inside of your organization could be a great way to process that information, whether it's handwritten forms or things like petty cash reports. All of those kinds of information could be part of this model as well. Now, importantly, we want to help you to ingest that content in a more effective way. We want you to help categorize that content. So, for example, the types of contracts that are coming in, maybe you automatically want to put a retention policy as part of it as well. We also want to make sure that you're compliant with that. Now, with compliance, it's really about connecting to existing functionality inside of Microsoft 365. For example, with Microsoft Information Protection, and making sure that the governance and the policies that you've already set up inside of your organization can be part of what you're doing with Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. Now, there's a couple of different areas that I want to stress in terms of how we've helped to develop Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. It really is about this partnership that we have between people and AI. And so one of the goals with the functionality that we're delivering is for you to be able to build that no-code model. So as a subject matter expert, perhaps in a business process, you want to be able to extract what's important to you from all the different kinds of documents that are coming in as part of your workflow. We'll have a range of different functionality that's coming as part of Syntex as well. And so one of the areas, for example, like form processing, where you can take in forms, you can actually connect off to the Power Platform, and we're using some of the functionality from our colleagues in AI Builder to help you process forms in a more effective way. So if you've got handwritten forms, you've got forms that you have to process, they're very structured pieces of data, it's a great place to be able to do that. And so with document understanding, we want to be able to take things that are from unstructured types of documents. So for example, a contract, a proposal, a statement of work, and being able to extract key clauses or terms from there. And then we want to make sure that we're rigorously applying what you need in terms of policy and governance on there too. And so you see the spectrum here that helps you to understand that I could do a bunch of work manually. There's some great functionality there too. I can help with just some AI that's coming out of the box for you. But then you can really think about using these advanced capabilities from Syntex that help you to process the information in a more effective way. Now, one of the areas that I want to talk about a little bit more is really this kind of model types that we have inside of your organization. So within Microsoft SharePoint Syntex, we have these two different ways of understanding your content. First off, it's really about documents and then also about forms. Now with document understanding, those functionality is being accessed through the Content Center. The Content Center is a new exciting destination that's created as part of the Syntex offering. Now with Syntex, you have that Content Center. It allows you to access these new advanced capabilities, and it also creates a great destination as kind of a hub, if you will, for your business process. Now that model is available then inside of SharePoint Syntex. And with SharePoint Syntex, I can take it to the next level and connect it to other workflow that's happening inside of my organization. I can do customization on top of it as well. But straight out of the box, I have the great way to be able to process information, for example, inside of unstructured files, like processes, like those proposals, those statements of work, that kind of information. Now, what's important here is that I get to be able to use these classifiers in a new way. So I can really help to teach the machine to understand the content the way that I do. So for example, when you're working on a project, maybe you're a project manager, you might be extracting very important information that's good for your job. But there are other folks who also are working on a specific contract. And so you can have a subject matter expert who's a procurement expert or a legal expert, and they can actually help to extract what they need as well as part of this model. And the great thing here is that you're able to put all of that knowledge together. You're able to use this to build a kind of a trainable classifier model. And then you can also extract what you need as part of this. Now, once that model has been built, the really cool thing is I get to apply this in lots of different places. So I can apply this to other document libraries that already exist inside of my SharePoint environment, or I can apply it to other models that might be in other libraries inside of my content center as well. When we talk to customers, it was really about understanding that data is kept in lots of different places. And so we wanted to make sure that there was a great connection between what you could do with the Power Platform and what you could do with Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. Now, when you put those things together, you can really help to process forms in a new way. So, for example, if I've got handwritten forms, if I've got new forms that are coming in, maybe they're structured employment forms, for example, I can actually extract what I need from there. I can very quickly build a model within just 5 or so clicks, and then I can extract what I need and then have that populate back to SharePoint and then kick off workflows and other pieces that are associated with that. Now, with those models, we think they're pretty simple and easy to understand and build very quickly for an ad hoc model. And so those are restricted to a specific document library. So they're not shareable across your organization. Those are things that you might run for a specific operation and your type of form, and then you're able to use that in depth. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about document libraries and all of the advanced functionality that we have inside of Microsoft 365. And I'll let Chris take it away from here.
Thanks, Naomi. I promise we'll have her back in just a minute to show you Syntex in action. But I wanted to begin by putting Syntex in context with how it worked with the rest of Microsoft 365. First, the building block, originally delivered as part of SharePoint, document libraries. Document libraries are the basic unit where you manage content that lives inside Microsoft 365. They have responsive views, so you can get to them through any kind of device. We extend libraries into places like Teams, into SharePoint. You can use OneDrive to sync them to remote devices. And it's the place where you go to take basic gestures like file movement, check in, and check out. For content outside of Microsoft 365, we have our graph-based content connectors. These allow you to reach out using connectors built by Microsoft and our partners to over 130 different sources. On-premises file shares, SQL Server, enterprise websites, MediaWiki, ServiceNow, and beyond. You can integrate all of this information into the Microsoft Graph to start making it searchable and usable throughout Microsoft 365 and extend those experiences into places like Cortex, the rest of Office, as well as custom solutions built using our Graph APIs. By staying aligned to the Graph, it makes sure we're delivering on our promises for security and compliance. SharePoint Syntex ties to our compliance engine using retention labels and sensitivity labels, the same capabilities that have already been present in the suite. Now, those labels have superpowers. They can bring along special rules for access control in the case of sensitivity labels, or for document retention in the case of retention labels. Now, those labels can be actively added by users, and now they can be automatically applied by Syntex using our content services AI models. Microsoft 365 then allows you to deploy these policies and manage them at scale using our analytics engines and file plan tools. In the end, the result is a system that allows you to manage your rules for metadata, for taxonomy, and for content types, and merge those with our information protection labels. The Syntex engine brings all of that together to allow you to automatically tag content in real time, tied closely to our compliance engine. The end result is precision in search, in workflow, and in governance. So those are some of the benefits at the top level. Now I'm going to bring Naomi back to walk you through a live presentation of Syntex in action. Naomi?
Great. So now I'm really excited to show you Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. It's really about putting together the power of what you have as a subject matter expert and building that into the models that you can use every single day. Let's take a look. Now here's an example. This is a contract, a consulting agreement here, and you can see that we've got the different parties that are involved in this consulting agreement and a little bit more about the contract and some of the key details that are within this. Now, traditionally, it's been really difficult to extract this kind of information. And so thinking about, I need to capture who's part of this contract, what are kind of the considerations or the terms that are part of it. There might be lots of different words. The date might be in different formats. And in fact, the entire document might be structured in very different ways. So this really is how we can use the powerful capabilities of SharePoint Syntex to really analyze and extract what you need from this specific document. Now, of course, inside of your organization, we know you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of these types of documents. And so having the Content Center as a great destination is a good place to start for that business process. You can see here that I've got a new Content Center template. This is something that's easy to set up inside of your organization. And we've got some guidance that's built right in here to actually helps you to understand how to build your first model as part of this. Now, another set of functionality that we have here is the ability to obviously customize this page with whatever you need. And then you can also see some analytics about the business processes that are running inside of your organization too. Now, I'm going to take you over to look at one of the models that we have. And so here's one that I set up earlier, but I want to showcase some of the functionality for you. The first thing I wanted to showcase is just to help you understand how to build a model itself. You can see that we've got these four main blocks across the screen here, and it really helps you and guides you through this process. When I'm first going into the content understanding part of SharePoint Syntex, you can see that I can create a model, I can add some example files here, and I can actually add the amount of files that is required. Now, as compared with traditional machine learning systems, where you don't have to access thousands of files here, probably 5 or so is a good way to start. And so this is something that's manageable for you as a subject matter expert. Now, once I've started to create my models, I can actually help to run and understand a little bit more about what I need to classify. So in the second stage, we want to be able to classify the kinds of content. And you'll see that you're asked to do something that's maybe a little bit different. I'm going to be asked to supply kind of positive and negative examples of the file. Sometimes it's really one of those key actions that you're working with, and that partnership, as I mentioned earlier, between people and AI. So, for example, I showed you the consulting agreement that we do want to process. I'll also need to provide examples of things that are not those consulting agreements, and it really helps the model to get up to speed much faster when you do that. Now, in this case, I can classify this different content type. I can then extract the words and phrases that are part of this, so the things that are important to me, like the amount of details that I want from there. And then I'm able to reuse those different extractors as well. And then finally, I'm going to be able to apply the model that I've built right directly inside of our organization. So those are kind of the brief steps on how to do this. So let's take a look at one of these things in action here. So for example, here I can see I've got these example files for training. You can see that these are all the different ones that have been incorporated as part of this. And then I have this section on the screen that helps me to understand a little bit more about the entities that I'm extracting. So if I look here, I can check out the contractor example. And so in this case, I can label the examples that I need as part of the files, and then I can extract who's important as part of this. So you'll see here, there's a consulting agreement. I can actually go through and I can label this. I can also X out if I've incorrectly labeled this too. And I can check out the next different files as part of this. So in this case, we've labeled Christy Klein, and then I could go through and I could label again Christy Klein as part of this too here. Once I've gotten to the part where I label 5 examples, then I can actually train the model as part of this. So I don't have to go through all of them. I just need to give a few examples to help the machine to understand what it is that I'm doing. Now, once I've trained that model, I can actually check out different ways here to understand a little bit more about that information. Now, occasionally we might have things like prefixes. You might have other ways that you actually have to add some detail here to make sure it is accurately getting what you need. So in this case, I can add an explanation. And so these explanations are of different types. So for example, I could do something from the explanation library. The explanation library allows me to look at things that are common and across lots of models. For example, the dates, the formats, that kind of stuff. I can also extract things like the zip code, the first words of sentences, credit card numbers, social security numbers, all of those good stuff. So I can actually extract that. I can even build my own explanations as part of this too. So in this case, I'm going to apply that prefix model. And so when I've applied that, then I can retrain my model as part of this too. Once I've done that training, then I'll be ready to test. And you can actually get some visual feedback here between what's been predicted inside of the model as well as what you've manually labeled. And that's a really important thing to be able to check out, because I want to be able to see if what's been predicted is actually what I would accurately label. And so this is a great way to be able to test that out. Now, finally, once all of those things have been established, I can actually test my model, and then I can check out these different areas. So here's those predictions that I was talking about. Here's one of those examples of one of the negative documents that I have here. And then I can actually go through and make sure that all of these predictions are accurate inside of my organization. Now, once I have that model established, I can always go back and change it if I wanted to. If this wasn't accurate, for example, I could go in here and open it and label, and then I'd go restart in those different steps. But once I have that model, then I'm able to use it inside of my organization as well. Now, the output to this is really interesting. If you think about it, what I'm trying to do is generate a whole list of objects here. So in this case, I've run this particular model. You can see inside of this document library here that I have that little notification that tells me that a model is actually running on top of that document library. So when I click on this, it can say that this library now has those superpowers that Chris was talking about, and it can classify the document as part of it. Now, I might have simultaneously multiple models running in this document library too. So in this case, I've got a form processing as well as a document understanding model. Once that model is set up, then it can extract the information that I need very quickly. And so it's a really cool thing to think through here. I've got, for example, the fee amount, the contractors, the clients, whatever I need out of that contracting information. Now I can take it to the next level as well and say, hey, I want to be able to use this workflow as part of my organization's processes. So in this case here, we can actually do a custom view that helps us to understand a little bit more about where the status of these documents are. So for example, if I've attached a Power Automate workflow here, then I can see that these different contracts, which ones have been approved, I can actually hook it up here very simply. So I can check out the new ones, and then I can actually go through and approve those or reject those directly from this screen as well. And so all of these pieces really help me to put together both that model that I can build as an end user. I don't need any experience other than my expertise that's actually in the documents themselves. And then I'm able to build that model and then apply it to different document libraries that I have both inside of my content center and beyond. So I hope that gives you just a little taste of what you can do with Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. We're incredibly excited to see how the expertise that you already have, how you translate that into models that you can build yourself, and then be able to use those to extract the information that you need across your organization. Remembering across Microsoft 365 that you can hook this into all of the business process capabilities that we already have. And it's a powerful incorporation into what you could do to really take your productivity to the next level. These content services are really built for you and the way that you work. And we're delighted to show what you can do with Microsoft SharePoint Syntex. Please do check out all of the in-depth sessions that we have as part of Microsoft Ignite, and you'll be able to check out all of the live demos of how this connects with the managed metadata services and taxonomy, how this connects with retention policies and other areas as well.
Thanks, Naomi. I hope you all see why we're so excited about the potential for SharePoint Syntex to transform not just the way organizations manage content, but the way that you work, helping you transfer your expertise to others and get control of your time back. That's why we're so excited to announce that SharePoint Syntex will reach general availability for all of our commercial customers worldwide on October 1st of this year. Syntex will be available as an add-in priced per user to E3 and E5 plans. Syntex will also include 1 million credits a month for AI Builder to help you get started with processing forms, as well as capacity to allow you to integrate remote information into the Microsoft Graph. And you'll be able to learn more by visiting us today at aka.ms/SharePoint Syntex. And there's even more to come. Naomi?
So yes, as we mentioned, really Microsoft SharePoint Syntex is just one of the first products that we have coming out as Project Cortex. And so I wanted to share with you just a little bit more about what we're doing with Project Cortex and where some of the ideas are for the future. Now, of course, October 1 is coming right around the corner, so you'll be able to have access to SharePoint Syntex then. And so you'll get the great advantages that we've have already. So, for example, the document understanding models, the pieces that I showed, the content center, that new destination and its functionality, and then some advanced capabilities that we have in taxonomy. If you haven't seen all the great work that we've done on the managed metadata services and the taxonomy service, please check out those sessions as well, because we've been on a real journey with those to modernize them and then bring new advanced capabilities as well. Now, of course, a big part of Project Cortex is on the knowledge side. And so putting together those knowledge and content experiences is incredibly important to us. And so you'll see more announcements about this later on, but we really want to think about how does all of that information that's coming into your organization contribute to the corpus of knowledge inside of your organization. And so we want to extract from there automatically things like the project names, campaigns, initiatives, other areas inside of your company. So we can help you to automatically identify those topics, find what's relevant to you, and generate topic cards and topic pages that allow to be shared across Microsoft 365. Now, let's think about what's coming up as part of all of that too. So we want to think about all the different kinds of models that we're developing as part of SharePoint Syntex. We realize that things like contracts, statements of work, proposals, forms, that's just the beginning. And so we're going to look at different ways to help you manage models across your organization and also expand to different types of models. And so the more that we can do in that partnership between people and AI to do pre-built models, think about the different ways that we process that information intelligently out of the box, we're going to add even more capabilities there too. Now, the other big area for us is really making sure that taxonomy and knowledge are truly linked together. So if you have invested in structured data inside of your organization, this is a great opportunity to think about how would I look at the terms that I have available inside of my company and how those will get seeded into the knowledge graph as well. Now, when we think about what's coming next, it's really about understanding that interconnected experiences. And so looking at expertise inside of your organization, how skills are being identified automatically as part of your everyday collaboration, and how that comes together with the management of metadata and topics that are being automatically identified. And so the more experiences that we can do to bring those things together, it will be incredibly powerful. Now, the other big area for us is really looking at content assembly and adaptation. And so there's some great capabilities that we have already inside of Microsoft 365, thinking about how you reuse content. Maybe you're taking content from one form and putting it into another. But we really want to look at how you can couple that together, understanding what I could extract automatically with AI models, being able to repurpose that into different places and maybe into very, very different forms. So exciting stuff that's going to come there too. Now, the final area I am really pumped about because it really takes us across what we're doing with Microsoft Search and a lot of the newest innovations that we have with Microsoft Research. We want to connect together expertise and topics and understanding inside of your organization so that we can do things like automation of questions and answers. And it's not just about questions and answers that have been automatically identified, maybe as part of your communities or as part of documents, but really understanding how we can help to route the right question and right answer to the right person and making sure that we're able to deliver the existing knowledge that you have inside of your organization right to the person when they need it. So lots of exciting innovation that's going to come as part of Project Cortex. And we hope that you're as excited about Microsoft SharePoint Syntex as we are, and many of the other products that we will have as part of this too.
Well, thanks, Naomi. And on behalf of Microsoft, I want to extend a thanks to all of our teams who have helped bring Project Cortex to fruition, to our customers, to our partners, and most importantly, to each of you. We can't wait to see where we all take Syntex in the months and years to come. Thanks.